All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We are going to go ahead and get ourselves started. You may hear a little bit of background noise behind me. I do have my son at home with me today. So if you hear something about his cartoons, I apologize in advance. But I did want to welcome you all to today's webinar where we will be talking about relationship building during COVID-19 from myself as well as our PSE specialists, Patrick, Megan, and Tina. So if you all were on our last webinar, we'll go through a little bit of introductory information that may not necessarily be new to you. So as you may know, the Building Capacity for Obesity Prevention project is a partnership between Case Western as well as the Ohio State University SNAP Ed program. I just wanted to give you all an overview of who is on the BCOP team because we have a pretty large team between the two universities. And you may get emails definitely from your OSU team, but from time to time, you may also get emails from the Case Western Reserve team as well. So today, our presenters are no new faces, myself, Jennifer King, as well again as Megan, Tina, and Patrick. So a little bit of housekeeping. As attendees, with exception of a few of you guys who will be presenting today, everyone is going to be muted. But I do ask that you use the chat feature to communicate with your fellow attendees and the presenters. And unfortunately, with this version of today's webinar, we don't have our Q&A feature to ask questions, but you can certainly use the chat room to ask your questions, and then we can get you an immediate response. Today's webinar is being recorded. So once I get that recording, I will send that out to the PSE specialist, and you all will have access to it in addition to the slides. Should you be having any technical difficulties with accessing your Zoom or staying on, please contact one of your PSE specialists and they will get you back on. And in a second, I will also post in the chat just a bit more information about troubleshooting if you need to use it. Lastly, as we get through today's presentation, I ask that we all be respectful and be patient with each other. So with the Building Capacity for Obesity Prevention Project, or BCOP project, we like to use our alphabet soup. I won't necessarily go through all of these acronyms, but you may hear some of them throughout today's presentation, particularly with the PSE READI, which is the PSE Readiness Assessment and Decision Instrument. Okay. So for today's objectives, I'm actually going to turn it over to our PSE team, so our PSE specialist. Well, actually, I'll introduce what today's objectives are, and then I'll turn it over. So from today, we would really like for you all to feel more comfortable with building relationships, definitely virtually, for PSE efforts. From the first webinar on August 27th, we learned that building relationships and keeping those relationships sustained is kind of difficult, and understandably so, as many of you are unable to communicate with your partners or potential partners face-to-face. We also want to share examples of how PSE relationships have evolved during COVID-19. We definitely have had a lot of negatives during this time, but there are also opportunities for positives. So we will hear about that. I will be highlighting some resources that you can utilize with the PSE READI for relationship building. And then lastly, you all will engage in conversation with each other in some breakout sessions to talk about ideas for fostering relationships that are specific to a couple of the different PSE topic areas that we will talk about. So now I'm going to turn it over to our PSE specialists, and Megan, Tina, and Patrick, you all can just let me know when you need me to go to the next slide, and I will do that.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you can go to the next slide, Jennifer. We're going to start talking about strategies to build relationships virtually for PSE efforts. And so our first strategy is creating a virtual presence. And so a couple tips for doing that are use your video whenever possible. Video immediately improves engagement on a variety of levels because it allows participants to put faces with names. Also helps people easily convey and understand meaning through your facial expressions and body language, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And it also discourages multitasking. I know we probably all have seen commercials and stuff where people are doing other things while they're on Zoom and don't realize that people can see them sometimes. So it's kind of to discourage that multitasking, but it also encourages engagement by the partner. The next tip is be present. So prior to starting, I know a lot of times in the virtual world, there's internet issues and stuff. So taking a few minutes prior to your start time to just check that, and then to really get present, turn off your phone, close your email. You want to be fully present for your partners in your meeting. Then review your agenda, and as you reach to join, just take a few deep breaths. That tends to have a calming effect, and it having that moment to breathe before connecting helps you to clear your head and allow you to stay focused and flexible on the call. The next tip is be authentic, be personal. So some of this stuff sounds really like, duh, right? We already know that, but it's good to remind ourselves of this, especially when we're not used to communicating virtually, but more face-to-face in person. So it's hard to think that we all started, working virtually in just a matter of weeks when this all started. Like, people across the world were cut off from in-person contact. And just because we don't have that physical interaction or it has become more limited, doesn't mean we still can't develop those strong relationships. So the first thing is just being yourself and being sincere. And that's one of the most important things to remember right now, is that everyone's a little bit anxious in current times and communicating virtually, and everyone has some degree of uncertainty. So that allowing, kind of what Jennifer said, that grace and that flexibility and patience. And then vulnerability can be tough, but we're not going to ask you to jump in and bare your deepest fears. But research shows, however, that it's recommended that you share some small glimpses of your life in small ways that add human elements to your professional relationships. Also, sharing a little bit about yourself also helps to establish and find common ground with your partners. And on that note, it's easy to feel you have to get right down to business. But before you get down to it, take just a few minutes to check in and warm up with your partners with a few general questions like, how are things going? Or how was your weekend? Or do you have any fun plans? It lets the person know that you care, and it helps to build that trust. And it also sets a relaxed tone for the call. The next one is communicating effectively for clarity and engagement. So in a virtual medium, it's really easy to get to be misconstrued. So you just want to pay close attention to your word choice and the tone of voice you're using. So you want to make sure your voice is congruent with your message. So before you start the meeting, ask yourself, what do I want my partners to think or feel? And kind of try to match your tone of voice and your word choice with that. Similarly, slowing down and embracing pauses, as well as a warm vocal tone allows others to listen and understand. And then remember that your physical demeanor can seep into your vocal tone. So for example, if you're smiling while speaking, you automatically add a measure of friendliness and energy to your voice. Whereas if you're slumping in your chair, then it compresses your diaphragm and adds undertones of stress to your voice. So just kind of think about that. The next one is ask questions, solicit opinions, and listen effectively. Seems a little obvious, but we should be trying to speak in order to draw someone. Working with our partners, asking someone about their thoughts, ideas, and feelings, even if it turns out they don't have much to say, makes them feel valued and heard, as well reinforces the relationship you're trying to build with that person. So our partners usually during those calls should be doing at least 60% of the talking. Listen for what's important to them, what excites and motivates them. And then don't be afraid to be curious. Asking good follow-up questions to what a person is sharing with you is part of effective listening. So let the question breathe, pause to listen intently, and then show interest through your body language and small phrases of encouragement. And that brings us to the last one, is just animate and validate. So a large part of our communication is through expression and nonverbal communication. So to validate that you are listening during a virtual meeting, make sure to give some head nods or visual signs that you're actively engaged in thinking. We want to step away from kind of focusing only on actionable steps or adding our opinions. So instead, what that means is instead first take a moment to react positively to what someone is saying. Let them know you are genuinely listening and that their presence matters. So if they say something good, you can throw in like short cues like good point or gotcha. Or you can use reflective listening questions to clarify that you understand. So like ask if your interpretation is correct. So for example, what I heard you say is, and then is that correct? So, and last, just remember that, you know, this is a virtual lifestyle and it's temporary, it's ever changing, and for however long that is, when we do resume normal social norms, we will all come out stronger, having honed our relationship building skills and communication skills virtually. And then Patrick.
Sure, if you wanted to go on to the next slide, Jennifer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about engaging in virtual meetings, and Tina did a great job with talking about virtual presence, and all of that is very important when you do engage in meetings. So some other tips and tricks for engaging in virtual meetings is to have a prepared and practice elevator speech. This is also just, you know, an introductory speech that you've sort of prepared and practiced. This is very important for any larger coalition meetings that you might attend when there's multiple partners, because there's not always time built in to talk with others and you need to make that quick connection. So a good introductory speech should include who you are, what your position is, and a brief summary of what you do that gets others interested in learning more about you and your work. And then hopefully they'll come out and reach out to you to learn more, to have maybe a one-on-one meeting or, you know, a closer interaction. For example, when I was a PA, I often introduced myself by saying, hello, my name is Patrick Tiggy, and I am a program assistant with OSU SNAP-Ed program with Athens County Extension, and my role is to teach nutrition education, as well as work with other efforts on increasing physical activity and access to healthy food for our grant's target audience. So it's something short and sweet that gets people interested in what you're doing. And you can feel free to take that and use it if you want, or come up with your own. Sort of going off what Tina said, you know, asking questions during a meeting is extremely important. At larger meetings, asking questions can help you find out who may be a good partner and what projects you could possibly work on or help with. This can also help expand your network, because you never know when an organization or a person might not be a good partner now, but could be a great partner or collaborator on future projects. Also, during one-on-one meetings, asking questions can help you learn more about the potential partners and all the different ways to collaborate and what they're working on, so you can get them really interested in collaborating and finding ways to do so. During meetings, it's also good to take notes while you're asking these questions. This can help you to follow up with people in organizations after larger meetings for, a one-on-one meeting or just a simple chat. You can also use the chat feature during that meeting to, connect with them as well if you're able to do so. And find out what projects or ideas that might fit into our scope of work. And Megan's going to hit a little bit more on that following me up. Also, don't be afraid to offer suggestions and ideas at meetings, whether it be with a one-on-one or a larger meeting. Everyone is valuable when it comes to PSE efforts and has insight that they could use. So this includes you. So don't be afraid to share your thoughts and opinions and ideas. Also, when you are able to plan or help set the agenda, this can be very useful. It can help you to set a positive tone and focus for the meeting and put in time to do some of that non-specific task focused work, like get to know you time, like Tina was mentioning. It's also best practice to send that out beforehand if possible, so all participants can prepare a little bit beforehand, whether it be with a larger meeting or even a one-on-one. It could be as simple as just sending in your email, I want to talk about this particular project, or just I want to get to know you and your organization better to see how we can partner. It's also best practice with an agenda to include action steps. So these are essentially the next steps that anyone attending the meeting will take. It could be as simple as, saying our next meeting is going to be, at this date and time. Or if you are working on a PSE project, you can include who might be doing what, the next steps to move that project forward. Personally, I find it helpful for action steps to include what needs done, who's going to do it, and when that particular thing needs done by. For example, if I'm meeting with a middle school principal and the chair of the wellness committee to talk about healthier vending options, some action items that might come out of a meeting that we would have would be the principal contacting the vending company to find out what those healthier options are. The PA or myself might get information from the USDA guidelines to verify that those snacks are healthy and set up our next Zoom for the following month to continue talking about our project. And the wellness committee chair might work on coordinating a taste test with a student panel to try some of those healthier options that we are presenting for those vending machines. So now I'm going to turn it over to Megan to talk a little bit more about following up after meetings.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, so after these partner meetings, a lot of these tend to be, large group meetings where all of your community partners are at the table. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of having small group or one-on-one meetings in order to really build relationships and have true engagement. The smaller the group, the more interaction you can have, and the more people just feel, more comfortable to open up and talk a little bit more, especially in a virtual environment, because you're trying to be respectful of other people, waiting for someone else to talk, those kinds of things. So the less people you have in those rooms, the more likely people are to participate and engage. So one of the first things I like to do when following up after a meeting is to make sure you send out an email after to kind of thank people for their time and summarize what happened in the meeting, as well as go over any of the action items or things that were committed to during the meeting. So in order to do this, it's really important to make this a habit. So a helpful tip to commit this practice to habit is to create a follow-up draft email before the meeting even starts so that you can't forget. So obviously when you create that draft, it's going to be very generic. And then after the meeting, you would go back into your draft email and fill in the content of the meeting. So, start by definitely thanking your partner for their time, that thank you. And even sometimes, even if there wasn't a lot of content in the meeting, you can even just send or you don't have anything you feel like you need to follow up about, you can even just do the thank you part of the email after the meeting. That itself can help build relationships. That thank you email gives you the opportunity to re-engage with that person again after the meeting, and it helps to keep you at the top of their mind, as well as create potential for further discussion. So you could kind of continue your meeting beyond through email. And showing that gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to make connection and really be able to show appreciation and importance of that partnership to them. So using sentences like, I really appreciate the time you spent with me today, or, you know, being able to provide reasons why you're thankful is even better. So things like, I really learned a lot from the suggestions you shared today, those kinds of things. So reiterating kind of what Tina said, you know, being personable and genuine as well as professional in your emails. As far as key takeaways and follow-up action items, those two kind of go hand in hand. But again, just being able to sum up all of the commitments and kind of summarize what happened in the meeting, and you know, being able to point out, you know, points of productivity, and it kind of creates a like an informal agreement with the other party that they will be able to follow through as well. So it kind of reminds them, you know, after you leave a meeting, things get busy and you go back to the office and you have a million things to do. But that follow-up reminder helps reiterate, you know, this is what we said we were going to do, like, and it kind of just creates that informal agreement. They're more likely to follow up that way because they inevitably will, you know, want to respond to that email. And also being able to attach any like reference documents or links or minutes if you have them, or anything else that would be appropriate to include in that email, as well as including definitely timelines that were agreed upon during the meeting for when the next steps or that work should be completed. Another way to follow up for success is to just have check-ins. So even if you haven't met with your partners, you haven't heard from them in a while, just to send updates on, you know, it could be progress that you've made on work identified in meetings. You could just send them a check-in and say, hey, you know, this is where I'm at, just wanted to let you know. You could talk about like experiencing barriers or roadblocks to work, or successes that you've had. And then again, even like I said, if it's not related to a meeting, if you just haven't heard from a partner in a while that you typically work with, especially in this virtual world, and you haven't been able to connect with them because you're not doing direct education or in-person things, you could just connect with them and just say, hey, you know, just this is kind of where I'm at. This is what I'm working on. Just wanted to see how you're doing, how things are going with your agency, you know, just checking in, saying hello, just keeping that and maintaining that connection. And then always being sure to schedule your next meeting when meetings end, so that you can ensure that you're continuing that partnership and you're continuing that work. And, you know, just if you want anything to happen, you have to follow up. So I think those are definitely some important parts of, you know, after the meeting. So you can go on to the next slide, Jennifer. So next we're going to have some PAs across the state, so from different regions, different PSE regions, share some examples of some of the work that they've been working on related to PSEs and how they've been working with their partners to evolve their PSE work during COVID-19. So if you can go on to the next slide, you'll see who our other presenters will be today and who will be sharing some of those examples. And we are going to start with Becky McGuire in Williams County.
Okay, good morning. To first explain our PSE effort pre-COVID, it involved beginning and now continuing farm to ECE efforts in our 5-county NOCAC Head Start systems. So that included Defiance, Fulton, Henry, Paulding, and Williams County, and the program assistants in those counties as well. This effort was actually initiated by the NOCAC Head Start Health and Safety Director. There was a meeting that was held about beginning farm to ECE in our area. that eventually looped into us beginning this in our 5 Head Start areas to implement a new farm to ECE curriculum, and then working with the Head Start teachers to provide consistent lessons about local and fresh produce. So again, just to repeat, our PSE partners would be the NOCAC Health and Safety Director, the program assistants in our area, Head Start teachers, and then initially when we were getting this off the ground, we held a meeting with WIC, Community Gardens, our FCS educator, our A&R educator, our RPS, the field specialist for youth nutrition and wellness, which is actually Carol Smathers. NOCAC leadership, we had a meeting and kind of kicked around the best way to do it and really just gather information and gather resources from each of those individuals that we could use moving forward. And that worked really well last year. COVID happened, and then how have we maintained relationships since then? And again, it became more of a team effort. Initially, it was just kind of Williams County. We communicated with our Head Starts, or actually the Health and Safety Director, to say, you know, we still want to do this even though COVID happened and we can't teach the same way that we used to. We established bi-weekly Zoom meetings with our NOCAC area program assistants to kind of talk about what individually we would do in our Head Start classrooms, how we would loop in this PSE. And then at one meeting, we invited our Health and Safety Director and Megan, our PSE specialist, to this meeting to kind of revisit this PSE and to get some ideas. And then periodically we email updates to the Health and Safety Director of NOCAC so that she's updated on what we're doing. And that just, you know, happens normally through email, sometimes through calls. So during COVID right now, what we've sort of segued to, and Megan had a large hand in this, in providing guidance to move our efforts from more classroom heavy work into maybe procuring local foods. Those things can be done online or virtually so that our Health and Safety Director now can use that local food serving or feeding the kids either snacks or meals at the Head Start Center. So we've kind of moved from curriculum heavy to now helping the NOCAC find local foods, which is part of the Farm to ECE effort. Again, a big key in this was that our Health and Safety Director has a large buy-in. You know, she's into this. She's willing to go the extra mile to take what we've given her as far as resources and make the effort to get those items. And that's my time.
Thanks, Becky. So next we are going to hear from Adams County. Marcia?
Yes. Okay. So the PSE effort that I've been working on has been in conjunction with our Adams County Health and Wellness Coalition. And we have been working to develop a food council and a food access map for Adams County. It's a 2-year plan for 2020 and 2021. And so before COVID, we had made just a little bit of progress in kind of thinking about what we wanted to do. One of the first things we wanted to do was to put some edible planners, vegetable and herb planners out in the community for this past summer to kind of promote what we're doing and get people thinking about access to healthy food. So we thought we weren't going to be able to do that with COVID, but through emails and a central pickup, we were able to get our partner agencies to pick up some planners and get those distributed. So we were able to do that this summer. And then we started, after a few months into COVID, started having a few Zoom meetings with our subcommittee of the coalition, the Healthy Eating Subcommittee, that is specifically working with this project. We were able to come up with a vision and a mission and a goal statement, and then eventually to kind of compile a list of places where food is available in Adams County, looking at where SNAP benefits are accepted and where they aren't accepted. And then our Creating Healthy Communities coordinator is a large part of our coalition. And she did just a survey that she sent out to some partner agencies asking for feedback as far as where people in the county were purchasing fruits and vegetables, particularly barriers that they might have to getting those and other places they might like to see those available. And so in our most recent Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago, she shared results of this, and I noticed that there was only one person that completed the survey that reported getting SNAP benefits. So I suggested that we might try to get some feedback from people of a different demographic and try to get some of our clients. So I was able to get a survey out last week to an emergency food site that developed after COVID here in the county, and was able to collect 60 surveys from people who are receiving some sort of benefits, either food pantries or SNAP benefits. So that will help us as we move forward to look at some barriers to access to healthy foods in the county. And we do have a draft of our map already made up. We have a digital map that one of our members was able to make. And then we're working on a printed map. So we're on track to get a lot of it done in this first year. And then in 2021, we'll refine that, and we'll talk about things that we might look at as a coalition to help improve the access to those healthy foods in the county.
Thank you, Marcia, for sharing. Next, we were going to hear from Tanner in Knox County.
Awesome, thank you. So my PSE that I am focusing on was related to healthy farmers markets. Just to give a little bit of background, due to COVID-19, our farmers market in Mount Vernon has had a lot fewer people attending this year than in prior years. When the market began, it was at a very different location than they had done in previous years to allow for proper social distancing and all of the guidelines they were following. And because of different restrictions, including ours within SNAP-Ed, I have not had a physical presence at the farmers market, which I would often do in part to help with different PSEs in years past. So this year is, from the get-go, very different. In former years, the market would have several people come and provide food tastings, which was always a great draw. People would come for the food tastings to learn more about the market, and that would bring people, specifically SNAP eligible people, to the market. As SNAP-Ed was, I was one of those people providing those tastings. Obviously this year we weren't able to do that. So I tried to stay involved in any way that I could. When we had the Celebrate Your Plate recipe cards available to be sent to partner agencies, I had those sent to our farmers market coordinator to hand them out to people using their SNAP benefits at the market, using produce perks, or using WIC, because we have the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And then throughout the summer, I was keeping in constant communication with the Farmers Market Board about ways that SNAP-Ed could be involved and ways that we can help bring more people to the market. And in August, I learned that they weren't very happy with their produce perks redemption rates. They were only at about 59%, and they wanted them to be higher. And so that, I figured that's a great PSE opportunity to try to research ways to get more people to utilize and redeem their produce perks that they were receiving. So at this point, I had been promoting produce perks in my live and recorded lessons. So I figured, what's more that we could do? So I reached out to my PSE specialist, Tina, and to Produce Perks to brainstorm different ways that we could promote it more in the county. We met via Zoom, Anna Bird with Produce Perks and Tina, my PSE specialist, and we just talked about different ideas that other counties have done. They both shared about a texting campaign that Cuyahoga County did to promote Produce Perks among WIC participants, and Produce Perks offered to allow Knox County to try this campaign. So in order to implement that, I reached out to our farmers market board members and their coordinator to determine if they were open to trying out this texting campaign. Once I explained what it was, they were more than willing to do it. So I worked with the farmers market coordinator to draft up different texting prompts that Produce Perks would send to people who opted in to receive a text message to learn more information. I sent those prompts to Produce Perks, they edited them, and once they approved the text, we then created one opt-in text that we sent to Knox County WIC to send to all of their WIC participants because they already had a texting service to send out to do that with. So they were inviting people, if they wanted to learn more about food access in Knox County, to opt in to receive texts specific to Produce Perks and the Mount Vernon Farmers Market, and then Produce Perks handles the rest from there. Our next steps, because this is still a PSE we're implementing now, is to invite other partners such as ODJFS and our Knox Alerts system, which sends out text messages to people who are interested to help promote this texting campaign more to eligible clientele. So to summarize all of that, I know that was a lot of information. The partners involved in this PSE effort were Produce Perks Midwest, the Knox County WIC Department, the Mount Vernon Farmers Market, of course, our PSE specialist, and hopefully our Knox County Emergency Management Team who manages the Knox Alerts, and the Knox County ODJFS SNAP case manager. So a lot of this was about maintaining past relationships that I had and adding more relationships by including the Knox County Emergency Management, hopefully, and building a stronger relationship with the SNAP case manager for ODJFS. So I know that's a lot. Hopefully I didn't go over time, and if I did, I apologize for that.
Right. No worries about going over time, because honestly, this is such good information that has been shared by the PSE specialists, as well as the PAs from Williams, Adams, and Knox County. So thank you all for your contribution to this presentation. And kind of the information that I'm going to go over next is nothing new because it's already been kind of shared among you all. So with your registration, you all were asked kind of prior to COVID-19, so prior to like March, April, how did you engage in relationship building? And everything that Tina, Patrick, and Megan have covered, as well as what Becky, Marcia, and Tanner have covered, are really what you all kind of said that you were doing. Having those in-person networking and communication opportunities, whether that's attending events or having those face-to-face classes and programming, as well as having face-to-face interaction with partnerships with local organizations, and definitely getting feedback for additional ideas or how you might be able to improve. There was responses of saying that you all shared resources amongst yourselves in regards to any trainings that might be relevant or notifications that might be relevant from the USDA, FNS, or JFS. Additionally, using our traditional ways of relationship building and communication with each other, having those one-on-one phone calls, as well as having emails, whether that is to establish a partnership or to engage and follow up with each other. So now I want to quickly go over resources for relationship building. And the reason I'm going to go over it kind of quickly is because I do want to give you all some time in your breakout rooms to have discussions with each other. But please remember that these slides are going to be shared with you after today's presentation. So you'll be able to see kind of step by step what I'm going to go through, as well as have access to the links that are included in the slides. So in addition to the question about your relationship building prior to COVID-19 in your registration, we also asked about if you had used the PSEReadi.org website for getting resources related to relationship building. And it's not surprising that most of you have not, but that's no problem because as we go through the next couple of slides, I'm hopeful that it's going to give you information and motivation to want to look and see about these resources that are available on PSEReadi.org. You also provided some recommended resources that you all have been able to utilize with relationship building. And that's definitely with the systems approaches to healthy communities training from the University of Minnesota Extension, interactive trivia, as well as the use of virtual platforms, kind of before they became the heavy relied on platforms that we are using today. Lastly, as Tina had mentioned, just about building up those relationships and keeping those relationships is certainly going to rely on kindness, patience, and flexibility. And just reading you all's responses and hearing your stories from today's webinar and the previous webinar, you guys have definitely been able to practice all three of those. Now, I wanted to jump back really quickly to interactive trivia because someone mentioned this as a recommended way to relationship building. So if you can, just place into the chat box how you utilize interactive trivia to engage with partners or community members for relationship building. All right, so now I'm going to quickly go over using the PSE Ready, which is available again at pseready.org for relationship building. And as you go onto the website, you will see a series of different tabs that you can be able to access. And the one that we're going to access for our resources are, of course, PSE resources. Now, once you get to this page, there are 3 ways that you can look up these resources with the current PSE areas. So under step 1, you have the ability to select the topic, from farm to school to healthy food retail. From there, you can select a category. And what I have highlighted particularly is partnerships and networking. And this is the category that we have utilized to sort the relationship building resources. Or if there is a particular resource that you're looking for that we might have in our library, you can search using the search term, and it will come up in under one of the 4 PSE topic areas. So what I did was a quick search in our online library to find the resources that would be listed under partnerships and networks. Now, this is just a sample. There are pages upon pages of resources that can be available to you all for relationship building. I do want to note, however, that the 2 resources that I have listed for healthy eating in K-12 schools and healthy eating in food pantries are not listed on the pseready.org website, because these 2 areas are what we are going to be focusing on throughout this fall and winter to create these new PSE areas with your assistance. Now, I wanted to get ourselves ready to have a round table with our fellow SNAP Ed staff. And that means that you all are going to be broken out into groups in answering the 2 questions of who are the partners for this topic area, which we'll go over soon, as well as what are the tips and tricks that you have been able to use for building relationships with partners in these particular topic areas for PSE efforts during COVID-19. So the groups are a little funky because we do have quite a few people on today's call and who registered for today's call. So you all are already broken out into groups. And if I wasn't able to place you into a group as of about 5 o'clock yesterday, I'll place you into a group now. And we'll have about 10 minutes or so to have a discussion about those 2 questions of who are the key partners.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but we will have 10 minutes to go over who are the key partners with that, as well as who are or what are the kind of ideas and tips and tricks that you all have to share among yourselves. In regards to these particular topic areas and COVID-19. So just 1 second, I am going to get you all into your breakout rooms. Okay, and there are a few of you that I was not able to assign, so I'm going to get you all assigned to rooms right now. All right, welcome back, everyone. Again, I apologize for the short time that you all had in your roundtable breakout sessions, but I do hope that everyone had productive conversation about kind of who are the key partners in each of the PSE areas, as well as by thinking a bit more about you all's use of the kind of key tips and tricks that the PSE specialists have gone over, how you might continue to incorporate those into your relationship building efforts throughout our quite possibly unendless time with COVID-19. So I know that this slide says that we're going to do a roundtable report out, but it's actually kind of going to be a homework assignment for you all to have these report outs about how your breakout session went with your PSE specialist. So it's something that you all can continue to follow up on and kind of refine how you continue to engage with partners, with community members, kind of going forward, so that there's always a build and an improvement on the communication and on the skill, and just a continuance of the success stories that we heard today, so that we can continue hearing those going forward. Okay. So I'm going to wrap us up with just some next steps and final thoughts. So in my brief review of the PSE areas and the resources that are available on the PSEReady.org website, I mentioned that the resources for healthy eating in food pantries, as well as healthy eating in K-12 schools, is not on the website as of yet. And again, that is because we are actually going to be engaged in data collection starting next month, well, starting tomorrow, into December, to ask a select number of you about your perceptions of these two areas and how we might be able to create them and mold them into PSE assessments to place onto our website. So if you were on the last webinar, this map is not new to you, as we showed it and showed what target counties have been selected for the data collection. So over the next couple of days to weeks, the PSE specialists will reach out to the PAs in these counties to let you all know kind of what is the next step in regards to participating in this study and in this project, and again, helping us to build out those two PSE areas of healthy eating in food pantries, as well as healthy eating in K-12 schools. All right, so with 2 minutes left, I want to thank you all for attending today, particularly as it is my last day with the Swetland Center, as well as with Case Western Reserve University. Though I am leaving, you can always forward your questions to the bcop@case.edu email address, and someone will get back to you, as well as forward your questions to your PSE specialist. I learned a little bit last time that the survey did not necessarily work in our favor. So I'm actually going to provide the link for the survey to the PSE specialist, so we can get that sent out to you all. And then when you all access the slides here, I do have the survey linked here as well, so that you will have access to the survey, so that you can continue to provide your feedback about what we went over today, as well as what additional trainings you would like to see going forward. So again, I thank you all for your tremendous support since October of 2018, as well as the support that I'm seeing in the chat room. I really do appreciate it, and it was definitely a pleasure working with you all, and I definitely wish you all the best going forward. And please remember to be kind to each other, be patient with each other, and to be flexible with each other. So I hope you all have a great Wednesday and a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anna Claudia.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're gonna miss you. Yeah, I agree with everyone.